Alright, hello again, YouTube. Welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. Last episode, we tried to send a probe out to the moon, only to discover that our very early Mark 1 probes do not have stability assist, and we effectively couldn't control it. It also turned out to be a little unstable in the air, which was not what I expected. That was actually a genuine surprise. So we couldn't really control it, and we ultimately splashed down in the ocean. Some more work is needed there. So for now, until we get some more advanced, let's call it probes, which I actually don't know quite what tier they're on. I guess unmanned tech, maybe? Precision engineering? Yeah, precision engineering, I think, or maybe miniaturization. Yeah, precision engineering, I think, is our best bet. Until we get those, so we're going to have to stick manned, so we're going to have to rethink our moon flyby mission. We're going to have to build a manned version. That shouldn't actually need too much adjustment, but we might need a bit more fuel, perhaps. Or maybe we'll need to do some more research in orbit and get some new parts. So, command pod, the one that works. Heat shield. Most of this is stuff we've done before. In fact, we can pretty much reuse the exact same top section. Barometer, thermometer, parachute. We'll have to get the data from the... Actually, can we do that if we don't have a scientist on board? That is a thought, and I can't remember. So can we put a science junior on it? But I think we need a scientist to actually transfer the data across from it. Which you might be able to check. There is an in-game encyclopedia. Okay, Expedia. That, science. Experiments. Just checking. Search for data. Cabin. Okay. I forgot about what I'm thinking. In that case, we'll maybe not bring a Science Junior for now. Considering they're quite large, and I don't think we... We could also potentially do this. Which feels a little iffy, but we could try it. Yeah, we'll try it. We'll give it a go. Let's maybe 4. 2. We'll get this right. So, that is our bringing this back to Kerbin. We're probably getting a bit heavy for the parachute, but I think we should be okay. These have directionals in them as well, but I think we'll stick with lightweight for now. We'll go for the basics. Fuel tank. Let's see how much we can get out of a pug as at current weight. Ooh, not much. 1,500. Let's try 1.5 on that. 2,000. Okay, that's reasonable. Then we need to get this to orbit. Or at least nearly to orbit. We will do, if I have a bit of an idea here, do one, how far does that take us? 1,600? And then we use some radial attachment. And we attach 4 more. And we immediately go over the weight limit. Right, forgot about that. What about 2? Also over the weight limit. I don't know that we're going to be able to do this with our current weight limit, so I might actually quickly say back out and let's maybe upgrade our launch pad, because I believe that affects the weight limit. If they can afford it. If not, we'll have to do something else, but I don't think we've actually upgraded it yet. No, okay. It's 50,000, that's fine. That's not very much, really, in the grand scheme of things. Let's go. I should upgrade the launch. What is the weight limit now? 250 tons or something? It's quite heavy anyway. It is 140 tons. Yep, we're fine. So we'll do the plan. Or at least try it. So 4 of these. Oh. And compass. I said solid rockets are a cheap, good early option. Right. We have about 5,400 with that, which we will try. We are going to be a little heavier than that, though, in a minute. 4 fins, and this is not going to be very aerodynamic. And if it's not aerodynamic, we're going to lose speed from drag. So we're actually going to put 4 nose cones on the top, just to make it a little smoother. We have them. No, we don't have struts. I was going to say we'll brace the rocket a little bit with struts, but we don't have any of those yet. So, this one's a little different. So how this will work, you'll have the 4 outside ones will fire up. then it will drop off, and then the middle one will fire. Then that'll detach. That engine will fire up as usual, and then, yeah, you've seen this stuff before. Now, we are going to possibly be cutting it a little close on fuel. We might even start from a slightly higher orbit and start with a slightly jank orbit. That still should be okay, I think. But let's see how this goes. Have we got Valentina on board? Oh, Jeb's back. Yeah, I did tell you Jeb would be back. We're actually going to have Val because she's leveled up, and we might need the slightly better piloting for this. So, let's go. It's a weird one, Kerbal, because sometimes you want to go a little bit more complicated and do something quite clever, because it can save you a lot of effort or fuel or whatnot. And sometimes you absolutely want to keep it as simple as possible, and that will just reliably work, as opposed to something cleverer that just, well, doesn't. Takeoff time. 3, 2, 1, launch. Notice we've got a proper launch pad now, rather than a sort of dirt hill. Now, we can tell Val to keep us either prograde or retrograde. I believe if you keep prograde on your ascent burn, on your gravity turn, it'll automatically sort of naturally tilt over, although I'm going to give it a bit of a hand because it didn't seem to be tilting very hard. I'm not 100% on that either, but I seem to remember hearing that at some point. You also notice we're accelerating quite fast. We've got quite a lot of thrust, but we'll leave the thicker bits of the atmosphere quite quickly. Very fast ascent. It's getting spicy. And don't need those. Nearly clipped the engine on the way down, but we're okay. Oh. We're actually at about 90 kilometers. That's actually... what that means is we can use our second booster to circularize once we're in space. If we wait until we're about, I don't know, 85 maybe? And then, yeah, like I said before, we keep ourselves on that line. Just need to switch Spiritus back. What should happen is this will push us into some sort of orbit, or at least do most of the work of doing that anyway. Time warp a little bit until we're in space. That's the lag will drop a lot once we actually hit it. I believe the physics change over a bit from full atmospheric model to well, no atmospheric model, I suppose. Right. The music's kicking in. Right, let's go. Take us to orbit, solid rocket booster. Not normally how I would do this, but it should technically work as far as I know. Something I've said a few times this campaign. It hasn't necessarily, but we're going with it. You see our periax is increasing. It is working. I did not expect on mission like 7 to be taking an entire thumper into space. That's not something I normally do ever, but it actually does seem to be working okay, so we'll stick with it. Actually tilt up a little bit. We're actually a bit too far nose down there. Okay, we actually need a bit more kick. That's fine, we've got about 2,000 of it. As long as we're above 70, both at the highest and lowest point, then we are okay. Accelerate a little bit. Okay. Okay, we might actually have drifted a little too far down there. What we're going to do is we're going to make a maneuver. Just pull us up slightly at the lowest point. At the moment we're dipping back into the atmosphere a little bit. It shouldn't be enough to significantly knock us off, but I might have to recreate the maneuver now because I just realised it's going to drop slightly. See, our highest altitude is dropping only very slightly, but it's dropping a little bit because we're re-entering slightly. So we don't want that. We would eventually drop out of orbit at the moment. Electric charge is not stellar. We may have to worry about batteries a tiny bit on this moon mission, but we'll see how it goes. We ideally want to get this done in a few burns. We'll save our science for actually when we go past the moon, because that will gain us quite a bit. Quickly used to gain some more nice things. Go back to space again. That'll do it. That's all we need. That's the goal. Slowing down. Okay, we're getting there. 1 second. We've got to gun it for about, well, literally just 2 seconds. There we go. We are in orbit. Stably now. So, we need to reach the moon. I believe what you're supposed to do is roughly, I think it's about a third of a turn before your orbit would line up with the moon. You're supposed to accelerate, I think. Hey, there we go. That is absolutely the roughest guide I could possibly give for getting to the moon, but because I normally just let the autopilot do it, but that seems to, I think that's right. So, at 40 seconds before maneuver, we will start kicking the engines. Hopefully you're starting to get an idea of how maneuvering in space works, or at least, again, the absolute very basics. But yes, you change your speed by doing a burn with your engines to put you on a different path and then basically drift to wherever it is you're trying to go. You only need your engines running for very short periods of time normally compared to how much time you spend just literally doing nothing. Nearly there. And having to spend our battery carefully because we're running low. Or running out gradually. Now. Right. As long as we keep on track. Our little engine is burning away. You can go a long way on quite small stuff actually. As long as you keep it lightweight. And reasonably efficient. You might think, oh, puny tiny engine, that's not going to work, but the answer is not always more boosters. A lot of the time the answer isn't even more boosted, but just one bigger booster rather than lots of small ones. With one exception that a friend built when we were playing a Caspian multiplayer together. There's no official multiplayer, but there is a multiplayer mod. Don't currently have any plans to do multiplayer particularly on it, but you never know. The multiplayer is very jank. A lot of stuff like quick saving, quick loading doesn't really work, which is not so great. It works sometimes when it feels like it. At seemingly random, so you know. But it is there, and it is cool that it works at all. Right. Once we get quite close to it, we can slow down a little bit. Timing doesn't have to be perfect. There we go. We are going to encounter the moon. We're going to get within 600,000 meters of it. Roughly. The thing sometimes updates a bit when you actually get into range of it. So go. We'll do our science experiments in high orbit above the moon. We'll save the low orbit ones for an actual moon mission later. I think there's usually a contract comes up to do an orbit around the moon. So we'll maybe do that then. Maybe launch a satellite out there again once we can actually get some reliable drone calls. And when we get to this point, this little icon means that you're going to change what's called sphere of influence, which is what planet's gravity you're being affected by at the moment. What, I guess satellite, because the moon's satellite technically, not a planet, but once we get past that line, we'll be in moon gravity and you'll see the display will update a bit. Yep. So we will drift carefully past the moon. We should in fact be able to see it out the window. There it is. What we can also do now is tilt a little bit. Let's see what's going on in the science equipment. High radiation environment caused a few of the samples to glow. It looked like it'd be fun to. It looks like it would be fun to paint the rocket with this. Probably would be. Would be a little bit careful though. Mystery goo. The goo seems to be less dense here. Went around the inside of its pod, I'll imagine. Temperature. Measuring the temperature of space appears to be quite impossible, as there's no matter to be either hot or cold, except the spacecraft and the thermometer itself. This is probably going to give the R&D guys something to think about for a while. And pressure. The instrument reads 0. It's as if it was in a vacuum. It is in a vacuum. And crew report. You look down upon the you look down at the cold grey surface. It looks really beat up with craters. How'd it do? You could do one better as well. You can spacewalk around it, which I believe also gets us another world first. Got an EVA report. A little bit boring, but there we go. Here's some more science. There we go. We have gathered, we have flown by the moon. We do need to gather some data around it, which we have done. Now we need to return to Kerbin to finish this mission. Okay, so it might actually be a good thing we didn't send a probe because we wouldn't have been able to recover it. I didn't even realise that. Or to return from it. So, actually don't even need that, do I? Because since Valentina has leveled up, I'll do a quick save because this is a little iffy because we're coming in from so high up. Valentina, point us backwards, please. Excellent. Let's wait for our periaps to drop to maybe 30 kilometers. Or 3, you know. Only out by a factor of 10. A factor of 10 is right, but anyway. We're now on the path. I said you don't need very much fuel to adjust your orbit like that when you're right at the top of it. She's going to point us back to being retrograde again, because she's still pointing that way. Engine on. Let's burn whatever fuel we've got left and slow down. Let's also keep the open doors away from re-entry. Maybe even just close them. I don't think it makes any difference, but, you know, can't be too cautious. The engine starts to overheat, which it probably will any moment yet. But it looks like it's going to go. We'll cut it and drop it. It is overheating, but again, the longer we can burn for, the more speed we can shed. 3,000 is about as fast as you really want to be coming in for the most part on Kerbin. Gets a little dicey the faster than that you get. Or if you get much faster than that, I should say. Running the engine is generating more heat, so that's not helping much. But I think we're going to be okay to burn it out and then drop it. Yep. Goodbye. Notice the ablator is burning up quite quickly on this one compared to our first mission. Already burned through a lot of it, but we're also slowing down quite quickly. A little screenshot of that. Okay, since I think we can actually turn that off now, because we're no longer burning ablator. The only thing is we appear to be coming in to land on a mountain again, which is not ideal, because we're coming in quite fast still. I might see if we can drift over it before we open the chute. Oh, hello. Space Cat is here. The grace for videos once again with her meow. Okay, I think we might actually be going to land in that bit. Let's deploy chute for a little bit longer. I'm okay with us landing in that little cratery bit. I'd like us to go forwards for a little bit longer. Cratery bit? What do I mean? Ridge? Valley. Valley, that's the word. Geography, not my strongest suit. We'll also see how much we slow down, because we actually might want to drop that heat shield. We're coming in quick, but ideally I'd like it to take the shock if we are coming in quite quickly. It might. Sometimes you'll get a part will smash and then it'll take the impact for the rest and the rest won't break. Oh, big bit of G-force. Okay, we're actually probably okay. If you're under about 10 meters a second, you're not landing on something super fragile like a fuel tank that's empty and lightweight, you're probably going to be okay. If you are landing on a fuel tank, you probably want to be going at about 3 meters a second, if that. The autopilot mech can touch you down very lightly if it's working at its best, which is a little variable. It's pretty good for the most part, but it will occasionally screw things up. It helps to know what it's trying to do, even if you're going to let it do it. Okay. The science capsule got smashed, which I thought could happen. But we're fine. We're down in one piece. The only thing is we have lost about 50 science from that particular part, but we can always try and recover that again on another mission. We could fit more parachutes perhaps next time. I didn't even think of that at the time, but we could have had an extra radial parachute on it perhaps. We'd have to be a bit careful of avoiding it burning up, but that's doable. Still, we've got 98 science back, and I think some extra for our contracts, putting us up to 174, which is pretty good. A whole bunch of money, and Vantina's ready to go again. That's actually gone very well, really. Yeah, we got a lot from the world first, of getting to the moon, spacewalking around it, gathering science from it, all that good stuff. R&D. Let's see what would be good to have next. And I believe flight control and unmanned tech unlocks a lot of the most important features of MechJeb. Yeah, ascent guidance would be great. That's a really good one, and landing. Maneuver and translation would also be very good. But I'd be tempted to go straight for maneuver, because that unlocks MechJeb's ability to maneuver for you, effectively. But our rocket capabilities are not stellar, so I might also take advanced rocketry, I think. Yeah, I think we'll take advanced rocketry. Then we'll see how far towards flight control we can get. So regular flight control gives us some better fins and things. And we can't quite get advanced flight control just yet, but there is a little trick we can use. So remember how I said different parts of the space center give you different science? I believe we launch from the aircraft hangar, because yes, you can build planes in this game as well. Although we don't have any parts of them yet. We could simply build a little science pod with all the experiment systems we have on it so far. Just chuck them on there. Thermometer and a barometer. I think that's literally everything we need. Deploy! By which I mean, check it out onto the launch pad. Literally pretty much a chunk of the previous craft. I like to think this even is just the, like some engineering mock-up at some point that they've made for the last mission, and they're just like, just chuck that out there with the proper instruments on it, and we'll just gather the data from it. Just be like, oh look, 7.5 science. Crew report, 1.5 science. I'm not even sure we got clearance to be here. 3 science. 2.4, and lastly 3.6. Now we can just recover it. There we go. Instant cheap science. We could even have got the guy out to do an EVA if we wanted, but it's okay. There you go. Very quick, easy way to gather some science to just get that last little bit we need. I believe that was all we needed. Yep, we're over 100. We will take advanced flight control. This is going to save me so much time making maneuvers that aren't very good. And also executing them more neatly. We've also got RCS thrusters now. So we actually use that fuel we've got. This gave us some reaction wheels and gyroscopes, which are the same thing effectively. So that's a few other bits and pieces. We've also got some more automatic triggers. SRB monitor. Solid rockets. Right. So, what's next on our contracts? Rendezvous 2 vessels in orbit of Kerbin. I'm not going to take that, and there's a reason for that. That would basically mean we'd have to, well, again, rendezvous 2 vessels. I've never learned how to do that manually. I tried. I can't do it. So we're not going to take that one. What we might want to take, perhaps, is the space tourism quest, the first one. Where they want us to basically take one Kerbal into space and orbit for 4 hours. I think we're going to try and do that one. It pays well. It pays 100,000, and space tourism is worth a lot more down the line. It's a add-on contract. It's not in the game by default, but it is my favourite add-on contract set pack. And if we want to do our space hotel, we have to do this one because it's a bit of a quest line in the sense that we have to progress down. So, go to orbit. Easy enough. We've done it before. We do need, however, a slightly larger craft because we need to do this with 2 Kerbals. So this will be the RO5 Tourist 1. And let's see. Aha. We have the Mark II Command Pod, which is, I believe, a bit larger. And we'll actually double check we've got anything that could work with this because it's a slightly awkward form factor being a bit larger. 1 fuel tank. Don't have a large enough heat shield. No, we're not going to use that then. We're going to use the... Yes, the P. Like I said, some of these larger ones could fit more people in them. We don't need science equipment on it. And I believe this has some... Yes, it has some Abalethra on it by default. It has a sort of built-in heat shield. So I said they're a bit weird, these ones. They've actually got some nice advantages, but also some disadvantages that make me really not so keen on them. We also have an improved small engine, I believe. The Terrier, which I believe is just generally a little bit better than the other one. Yeah, a bit more efficient. I think it's a tiny bit heavier, but it works out better overall. That'll do for a little bit of maneuvers in orbit. Then going to want a coupler. We also have larger fuel tanks now. Getting into a form factor that's actually useful on these liquid fuel tanks. Maybe about that much, I think, will be right. And then let's try again with the 45. We had trouble with this before. Or, well, that's an interesting option. We could also go for a liquid methane engine. Now, these are... That's tiny. It's not. Let's actually have these scaled by size, please. Or we could have a liquid hydrogen engine. No, that's a bit too big. Okay, no, we're going to go for the 45. Aha. Got fins with some actual steering ability on them now. Yep, so we had trouble with the other pod tumbling before. We're going to overbuild on the fins and go quite big. That should hopefully counteract that issue. And we want a decoupler. And we want a thumper. We could do with a little bit more than that, so perhaps we actually want 5 thumpers. Working in unison to kick us upwards. Yep, that'll do it. These are not going to detach, they're all going to run at once. Yeah, and that should get us about where we want to be, actually. It's a little bit simple, but it should work. It looks vaguely like a rocket. I don't think we need much else. Oh, we need to be in orbit for a little while. But then again, I don't think this pod particularly is going to lose power. It's not doing anything. We'll fit some batteries. Just because it's got to be up there for a little while. Get some extra batteries to the top. It's not the most aerodynamic, but we should be alright. We should be most of the way to orbit before that's a problem. Checking the staging. Yeah, that looks about right. Tourist 1, ready to launch. No, wait. No, we're not. But the tourist on board. There we go. Jeb, you can fly this one because you haven't actually made it to orbit yet. Which I believe is all you need to level up. The other thing about these pods is I think they're a bit difficult to get Kerbals out. I don't know if they can actually disembark from those. Again, they're weird, those pods. I think they're meant to be the Soviet ones. I think it's like maybe a bit lighter and have some convenient things like having more Kerbals in, but a worse form factor, I think, maybe. So it balances out. Anyway. Yes, you notice our fins actually adjust this time. So they'll be able to help us actually steer instead of just what can you be able to put there? Instead of just stay stable. 3, 2, 1, lift off. Let's get to about 1,000. We'll start our gravity turn. Getting to orbit should be a little bit easier on this one because of our newfound improvements to MechJeb. You might notice. Open it up. We have some more options available. We'll get to those in a bit. I'm not a fan of not really a fan of manual piloting. So I'm someone who's very happy to let an autopilot do a good chunk of the work for me. I mean, it makes sense. They did a lot of that on real rockets. Not that you don't have to occasionally manually take over anyway, but let's just definitely make sure we're getting up to about the right orbit. But until we get to orbit, I'm still on manual at the moment. Okay, that should be enough. Might actually have a bit more than I thought we'd need. That got us quite a long way quite early, really. So, time warp a bit until we're out of the atmosphere specifically. We're also going to open up the maneuver planet. This is your do-it-all for the autopilot. This is the one you'll use the most. We're going to set it to circularize. And next, apoaps. So what this will do, this will go, hey, create me a maneuver node at the apoaps, the highest point in our orbit, that will make it circular. That will basically go make our apoaps equal to our periaps. Make it so we're in a round orbit, basically. This is a very quick way to put yourself into orbit. Until you have the actual launch autopilot that will just do the whole thing for you, including the ascent flight, and it is worth using. It is quite efficient. It is actually quite reliable if you've built a fairly standard rocket. Now the only thing might be how much torque do we have, or perhaps do we not have any even? Ooh, we have no reaction wheels. We kind of can't turn. Ah. One moment, YouTube. So, yeah. Remember I was saying about how these pods are a little bit awkward? That's one of the reasons. I'm pretty sure this has no torque on it. Yeah, nothing. Oh boy. Even the basics aren't involved in this thing. Right, we're going to add a small stabilizer. That should be all we need. Oh. That small stabilizer has put us a single part over the limit. We're going to have 3 fins here. 3 fins should work. 4 is usually better, but 3 shouldn't be a problem. I think we have 3 that way specifically, because that's the way we'll be turning over. Yeah, it's a little bit of a pain, that pod, but it carries 2 Kerbals, so it's kind of perfect for this. It's just, again, a bit of a nuisance in other ways. We don't really have a good way to mount heat shield on 2 Mark 1 pods, which would need to carry the VIP tourist if we use that method. So this is still the better way to do it. It's just, again, paying Toto Kerman tourist. Tourists don't actually provide anything for your craft. They are solely there to be ship places, and I don't even know if there are any in the base game. I think there might be. Not sure, but anyway. Here we go again. It's going to be mostly the same flight again until we get to that same point. I don't like how much the rocket flexes. That's something we could correct later down the line once we have struts, but at the moment we don't have those. They're under general construction, so you do unlock them quite quickly. And what they are is basically metal beams to make your rocket a bit more rigid and not flex like it's made of rubber, like ours is currently doing. Obviously flexing is not usually good. A real rocket flexing this much would probably have exploded by now, or at the very least be making ground control extremely nervous. Not that they don't have a tiny bit of bend to them, I imagine, but it's much reduced from that. Right. 100's not actually what you need to be in orbit, but it's what I like to aim for. Gives you a little bit of leeway either way. 80 is usually what most people use for low orbit, again, even though you can go all the way down to 70. 75 I would consider cutting it a bit close. Right. You'll notice we're not spinning this time. We have SAS to keep us straight. There's that little nose module has got gyroscopes in it. There we go. Turn it to target. We'll disable these because we don't need them working anymore. We're in space. They don't do anything. We're also going to tell MechJeb that it can automatically stage us to a degree. We're going to say auto stage. Stop at stage 2. What this will do, if it's doing a maneuver like the burn it's going to do, and it gets to the point where it will run out of fuel mid-burn, which it is here, this little line is where your next stage would be, it will automatically advance to up to the stage that you've set it to. So if you had 3 more stages, it could burn through, in theory, up to all 3 of them if you wanted it to. And then it will continue the burn. It'll be nice and smooth and relatively uninterrupted. Certainly enough to do a maneuver like this anyway. Kaito looks to be enjoying himself in there. Hey, there we go. Yes, as you saw earlier, you can very much just abort missions midway if you want. I know I've said you can recover them a lot of the time, but you don't actually have to at all. If you do just want to be like, I'll go back and fix it, you can. It's more of a pain when you're a lot further through a mission. Long ones can take over an hour quite easily. I definitely had that happen. And you can save midway. You don't have to do the whole flight in one go. It will save your crafting space. And you can definitely have multiple at once. You can indeed go and dock with your other vessels you've left up there, build stations and things. Again, as we're planning to do later. Yes, expect to see a lot of these little windows and things. I tend to have a lot once. But I don't actually need utilities open because we've already ordered stage to right. We're in orbit. So keep an eye. Let's just see. Does it drain? No, we're good. No, we're just going to keep him happy for 4 hours. Enjoy the view while he's up there. Tell you what we will do while we're up here. If we can. Save. EVA report. Can we do that? We can. EVA science experiment. Yeah, as I said, I don't think we can actually do that. We haven't got the kit for that. Apparently we can get out of these. I thought there was something weird about them. Maybe it's just the Mark 1 where you can't really get out of it. And the later ones are a bit better, but again, they have other downsides. Oh, I think I've reset the timer because we got out. Oh, because we need crew with the pilot traits. It's actually reset the timer. Got out. I didn't even think of that. Right. We're all good. He would like to come back now. That's fine. Get over some nice clear sky. We got a crew report from wherever we are now? Nope. Space Cat says no. Right. We don't need any of those. We also have an additional slightly easier maneuvering system available now. Smartass. Yes, they actually call it. I believe it's Smart Assisted Stability System. Anyway. Retrograde. Yeah, you notice we actually have all the others unlocked straight away as well. And Node, which will point us towards the node used for our maneuver. Cheating, perhaps, yes, but I don't care. Yes, basically letting the autopilot do it for you. Right. Engine on. Let's get us out of orbit. This is the same as ever. Burn until you're no longer staying in orbit. Aim for a water landing this time. Why not? Now. Wait to re-enter. Add up the last of fuel to slow us down a little bit. Should be fine anyway, but you never know. Let's take a crew report while we're here. We don't want to do an EVA. So we might get caught by the wind and knocked off the side of the craft. That can happen. Don't need that. And let's go. And through the atmosphere. That spins off into oblivion. Or rather spins off into the atmosphere where it burns up. At least mostly, I'd assume anyway. I don't know if we're gonna... I think we're gonna pass over the desert. Yeah, we're round, so we won't lose too much speed very quickly. It's actually the advantage of the flatter capsules as well. They lose speed faster because they hit the air harder. But again, this was the best for the mission, so we're flying the round boy. It's a shame that it's so awkward as well, because I actually do quite like it visually. I like the space pod. We don't have as much ablator, so we have to be ablator. Not quite sure how you pronounce it, but you should have enough. I think we could also I thought we could arm the chutes rather than just deploy them, but maybe not. Maybe that's a mod thing. I know one of the mods you can arm the chutes, so it'll deploy when it's safe to do so. It's probably be the last recording today, and then I'll go see what Space Cat has decided she wants. Needs to be quite insistent on something. But a lot of the time it is just nothing. Yeah. I'm calling you out on YouTube, Cat. You know you speak at me a lot when there's nothing. Very occasionally she's actually trying to tell me something. She often is actually like trying to tell me like, oh, there's like something out in the garden that's not supposed to be there, or our food's run out or something, but a lot of the time it's just like, meow, give me fuss. I mean, it's Cat. That's fine by me, but we are in the desert. Oh, well, there we go. We've avoided the water landing, but we're close enough that there is some water if we need it. Might be salty, might not. I don't know what Kerbin's water is made up of. If it is water. I think it is. Actually, I think it's confirmed that is water. I don't know about the rest of it, but... But yes, one of the things I am looking forward to as well is Kerbal Space Program 2, because that's coming out later this year, I believe, at least under the current plan. Sort of autumn-ish. Which I'm very much looking forward to. That's been coming for a long time. There's been some awkward stuff early on in development, but it looks very interesting. And if it is good, there will probably be a series on it. Quite happy to say that. I will happily play that one if it comes out, and it, not even if it's good, just as long as it comes out as planned. Right, we're going to be okay. Donk. Cover before it rolls too far. I think it's not quite spherical. I don't think it actually does roll very well, but just in case. Temporary flicker. I don't know why it flickers the desktop for a moment when it's loading, but it does seem to do that. There we go. A little bit of science earned. A little bit of funds, but most of the funds came from the contract. And and he's leveled up, apparently. Title is leveled up. I don't think that's going to stick around, because I don't think we get to keep him. But yeah, there we go. Hope you've enjoyed that, YouTube. We've made a start on one of our main goals of space tourism. And I'll see you guys all next time.